Have you ever noticed how the more available you are, the less he seems to care? What if I told you that the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all? Yes, silence isn't just golden. In relationships, it's magnetic. In a world where everyone is oversharing, over-explaining, and constantly trying to be heard, the woman who pulls back becomes unforgettable. This video isn't about playing games, it's about power, your power. Because when you understand how to use silence intentionally, you flip the script. You stop chasing and start attracting. You've probably tried texting first, over-communicating your feelings, or being understanding to keep his attention. But instead of pulling him closer, he drifted. He lost interest. And deep down, you felt that shift, that moment he stopped trying. Why? Because desire isn't built through words. It's built through space, through curiosity, through your silence. In the next few minutes, I'm going to reveal 6 psychological silence rules that will make him think about you non-stop, even when you're not around. These aren't manipulative tricks. They're feminine strategies, rooted in emotional intelligence and attraction psychology. And the best part, once you learn how to do this, you'll never feel the need to beg for attention again. So if you're ready to stop over-giving, stop over-explaining, and start holding the kind of quiet confidence that drives him crazy, stay with me. Your silence is not weakness, it's your most irresistible strength. Let's begin. If there's one thing that makes a man think about you long after you're gone, it's mystery. And mystery starts with silence. See, when you're constantly updating him on how you feel, what you're thinking, where you are, and what you need from him, you remove the unknown. And once there's nothing left to figure out, his mind stops working. He stops wondering. And when a man stops wondering, he stops chasing. Mystery is what activates the male brain. It's the not knowing that pulls him in. It's the gaps in the story that his mind keeps trying to fill. It's the silence between your words that leaves him asking, what is she thinking? Is she into me? Did I mess up? Why isn't she reacting? And when he starts asking those questions, he gets hooked. Most women think closeness comes from sharing everything. But in reality, real closeness, real emotional gravity, often comes from revealing less, from letting him earn access to your thoughts, your world, your feelings, not giving it all away in the first few weeks. There is nothing more alluring than a woman who doesn't feel the need to explain herself, a woman who doesn't rush to clarify every silence, a woman who can sit in the unknown and be perfectly at peace. When you're mysterious, you create emotional space. And emotional space is what gives a man room to step forward, to invest, to pursue, to uncover who you really are. Mystery isn't about being fake or playing hard to get. It's about being rooted in your self-worth, knowing that you don't owe him access to your entire soul just because he's interested, that you're not on trial, you're observing him just as much as he's observing you. This is where most women go wrong. They think silence means they're doing something wrong. They panic when there's a pause in the conversation. They fill every moment with nervous chatter, overthinking how they're being perceived. But that energy is repulsive. It screams insecurity. It tells him, I need you to validate me. I need you to tell me I'm enough. But when you use silence strategically, when you pull back just enough to make him lean in, you communicate something else entirely. You say, I am not here to impress you. I'm here to see if you deserve more of me. And that is powerful. Mystery turns you into a puzzle he wants to solve, a story he needs to finish. And as long as you stay just slightly out of reach, not in a cold, distant way, but in a grounded, self-assured way, he'll keep coming back. He'll replay your last conversation. He'll wonder what you meant by that look, that pause, that smile. Mystery keeps him emotionally invested, and that investment is what creates addiction. So don't underestimate the power of your silence. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Here's a truth. Most people avoid the less emotionally dependent you are on a man's attention, the more powerful you become in his eyes. Detachment isn't cold. It isn't cruel. It's magnetic. When a woman is emotionally detached, not numb, not dismissive, but deeply rooted in her own worth, she carries an energy that is almost impossible to resist. Why? Because men can feel when you need them to respond a certain way. They can sense when your happiness is secretly tied to their validation. And the moment they feel that pressure, they pull away, even if they don't know why. But when you detach, when you release the outcome, stop chasing emotional highs, and stop trying to make it work, the energy shifts. Suddenly, you are the mystery. You're not reacting. You're not begging. You're not waiting by your phone. You're living, and that creates pull. See, emotional detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop clinging. It means you care about yourself more than you care about whether or not he texts you back. It means your self-worth isn't up for negotiation every time someone likes or ignores you. And here's the kicker. The more detached you are from the outcome, the more he'll want to influence it. Men are biologically wired to pursue, but they only pursue when there's space to do it. If you're always emotionally entangled in him, always reacting, always needing reassurance, you've already done the chasing, and he knows it. But imagine this, he texts you, and you don't rush to reply. You're not playing games. You're genuinely busy living your life. You don't overthink what to say. You don't stalk his socials. You're focused, grounded, calm. That stillness, that detachment tells him something no words ever could. I'm not here to perform. I'm not here to prove. I'm here to be chosen, but not by just anyone. And guess what happens when he senses that? He leans in, hard, because detachment equals confidence. And confidence is rare, it's attractive, it's unforgettable. Most women have been conditioned to believe that love means constant effort. That if he pulls away, you need to pull harder. But what if the real magic happens when you don't? What if the most magnetic thing you can do is nothing at all? What if your silence, your calm, your refusal to chase is exactly what makes him realize your value? When you stop giving energy to people who aren't earning it, you naturally filter out the wrong ones and magnetize the ones who see your worth without needing to be convinced. This is the silent shift that makes a man obsessed, not because you manipulated him, but because you finally stopped needing him to choose you. And in the next rule, Rule 3, you'll learn exactly when to pull back and why timing is everything when it comes to triggering his desire to chase. This one's subtle, but it's a total game changer. Let's keep going. Silence doesn't just create mystery, it creates tension. And tension is what keeps people emotionally hooked. Most women think that if they don't keep the conversation going, if they don't fill the silence, he'll lose interest. But that's not how attraction works. In fact, the opposite is true. The pause, that deliberate, unbothered silence, is what makes him lean in. When you speak without pause, without presence, without space, you don't give him the chance to feel. And attraction is not about logic. It's not about words. It's about feeling. It's built in the spaces between the words, in the pauses that make him wonder what's going on behind your eyes. Think about any great movie, any unforgettable scene. The moment that gets stuck in your head is never someone talking non-stop. It's the pause, the look, the moment of stillness where your brain fills in the blanks. That's how it works in relationships too. The pause builds tension. It makes your words feel intentional. And when a woman speaks with intention, with calm, measured silence between her words, a man listens. Not because she's louder, but because she says less and makes every word land. But it goes beyond just conversation. This kind of pause shows up in texting too. Most people are obsessed with instant replies. It's become a reflex. He messages, you answer. But what happens when you wait? Not out of spite, but from a place of deep self-possession. He starts to feel the pause, the space, the slight withdrawal. And in that space, the tension builds. He starts thinking, did I say something wrong? Is she upset? Is she busy? Is she losing interest? That's the space where desire grows. Because when a man starts to question, he becomes invested. And when he becomes invested, he starts chasing. Tension also builds through body language. If you're on a date and you're quick to laugh, quick to fill the silence, quick to reassure, you're diffusing the tension too early. But when you sit in the silence, confidently, comfortably, playfully, it becomes charged. He starts feeling something, and he can't quite name it, but he wants more of it. Women who understand tension don't rush. They pause. They let him wonder. They let him work a little. And they know that in that space, that quiet, intentional stillness, he gets hooked. So don't be afraid of the pause. Don't run from the silence. Use it. Own it. Let it speak for you. Because when you stop giving everything away instantly, you give him something far more valuable, the need to keep chasing you, just to find out what's really going on in your mind. And coming up next, rule number 4 is one of the most misunderstood yet most powerful uses of silence in relationships, especially during conflict. This one flips everything on its head. Let's dive in. Silence after conflict is one of the most powerful moves a woman can make, because it puts the emotional control back in your hands. Most people feel the urge to fix things immediately. The second there's tension, they rush to explain, to defend, to make things right. That urgency comes from fear. Fear of being misunderstood, fear of being abandoned, fear of losing the connection. But here's the truth. When you respond too quickly after conflict, especially from an emotional place, you're giving away all your power. Silence after conflict isn't about shutting down. It's about stepping back, not to punish him, but to protect your peace. Because when emotions are high, logic is low, and anything said in that reactive state often creates more damage than clarity. By going silent, calmly, not coldly, you send a powerful message. I'm not here to fight for control. I'm here to protect my energy. And men feel that deeply. It forces them to sit with what just happened, instead of escaping into distraction or blaming you. It creates a gap. And in that gap, they start reflecting. Did I go too far? Is she pulling away? Did I just ruin this? Now he sits with the discomfort. He starts chasing resolution. And in doing so, he re-engages with the connection. Not because you begged for it, but because your silence made him feel the loss. But here's the subtle art. This silence isn't passive-aggressive. It's not the silent treatment out of spite. It's self-respect in action. You're not ignoring to punish. You're pausing to process. And that pause is where your emotional control lives. A high-value woman knows she doesn't owe immediate emotional labor to someone who's just disrespected or dismissed her. She's not afraid to pull back, regroup, and choose when and how she wants to engage, if at all. This silence also reveals something else. How he handles your boundaries. Does he reach out to understand? Does he reflect and take accountability? Or does he gaslight, push harder, or play the victim? Your silence is not just control, it's a test. It shows you who you're really dealing with. You don't need to scream to be heard. You don't need to argue to prove your point. Sometimes the deepest impact you'll ever have is in the words you don't say, because silence after conflict shows maturity, not weakness. It shows you're not addicted to drama. You value clarity over chaos, and you refuse to keep teaching someone how to treat you. That kind of energy is unforgettable. It lingers. It echoes louder than any outburst ever could. And in the next rule number 5, we take this to another level, because there's a kind of silence that doesn't just follow conflict. It creates desire. It makes him miss you, crave you, need your presence again. Let's go deeper. Absence is a form of communication. It says what words cannot, I'm no longer available on demand. And when used strategically, absence becomes one of the most powerful tools in attraction. Because here's what most women don't realize. Craving doesn't happen when you're present all the time. Craving happens in your absence. That's when your energy becomes rare. That's when a man starts to notice the space you used to fill. It's not when you're texting constantly, showing up every day, or always reachable. It's in the disappearance, the graceful pullback, that his emotional attachment begins to deepen. Strategic absence is not ghosting. It's not disappearing to play games or create insecurity. It's about disrupting the pattern where he expects you to always be available, always responsive, always giving. The second you step away from that rhythm, he feels it. It interrupts his emotional autopilot and forces him to realize that you're not just part of the background, you're a presence he wants. And now that presence is missing. This space makes him reflect. It makes him curious. It makes him miss the energy he may have taken for granted. But only if you do it with intention. That's the key. Strategic absence has to come from strength, not insecurity. It's not about pulling away because you're scared he doesn't like you. It's pulling away because you're not afraid to be missed. You're not afraid to protect your emotional real estate. You know that your energy is a privilege, not a guarantee. Let's be honest. Men are often most drawn to you when they feel a sense of lack, not lack in you, but lack of access to you. And that's what absence creates. Suddenly he's not getting the constant good morning texts. He's not seeing your name pop up every hour. He's not hearing your voice, or getting your updates. And that silence, it's loud. It echoes. He starts to wonder, where is she? What is she doing? Why hasn't she reached out? And the most powerful part, you're not doing it to manipulate him. You're doing it because you've chosen to redirect your focus onto yourself, your peace, your priorities. You've chosen not to perform for his attention, but to reclaim your own. This kind of absence shifts the entire dynamic. Instead of you wondering when he'll text or call, he becomes the one checking his phone. He becomes the one scrolling your social media, overthinking the last interaction, imagining what you might be doing without him. And the mind, when faced with absence, doesn't stay quiet. It starts creating stories, attachments, feelings. And when he finally does hear from you again, when your presence returns, it feels different, more valuable, more powerful, because it wasn't constant, it wasn't expected. And that contrast is what creates obsession. But here's the catch, absence only works when your return isn't desperate. When you come back with the same calm, confident energy you left with. You're not reaching out with, hey, sorry I was busy, or over-explaining where you've been. You just reappear, softly, simply, like a woman who lives fully, and never begs to be remembered. That's what keeps him coming back. Not your availability, but your absence. Not your constant reassurance, but the silence that made him feel something he wasn't expecting. The sudden awareness that he actually needs your energy far more than he realized. And in Rule 6, we'll take everything you've learned to the next level, because the most powerful use of silence, it's when you use it as a test, a final filter to separate the weak from the worthy. Stay with me. This last one is where it all clicks. Silence reveals everything, not just about him, but about you. And when used correctly, it becomes the ultimate test of value. Not just his value, but yours. See, silence shows you how someone handles not getting what they want immediately. It shows you how they respond when you don't hand over constant access, constant validation, constant energy. And more importantly, it shows you what kind of treatment you're willing to accept in the face of uncertainty. When you go silent, not out of anger, but out of intention, you're watching. You're not reacting, you're observing, you're allowing the other person to reveal who they are without your interference. And in that space, everything becomes crystal clear. Some people will panic, they'll guilt trip you, they'll try to manipulate you into engaging. Others will disappear, revealing they were only interested in the version of you that overgave and over-explained. But the ones who truly value you, the ones who see your worth, they lean in. They reach out with clarity. They don't need drama to reconnect. They approach you with respect, not pressure. Your silence is a mirror. It reflects back their emotional maturity, or lack of it. But it also reflects back your own self-worth. Because a woman who is rooted in her value doesn't chase. She doesn't beg for clarity. She doesn't rush to fix things that feel off. She waits. She watches. She lets people show her who they are without having to control the outcome. And that's where the test lies. Because silence isn't always easy. It will trigger every part of you that wants reassurance, that wants certainty, that wants control. But when you hold the silence, when you sit in the unknown without breaking your center, you grow. You start to see who's truly aligned with you, and who was only there for the parts of you that were convenient. The truth is, some people only love you when you're loud, when you're giving, proving, explaining. Your silence removes the performance. It says, here I am without effort. Can you still see me? And if they can't handle that, that's not your loss, it's your protection. So don't fear silence as rejection. Use it as a filter. When you stop chasing and start listening to what's not being said, you see the truth. You see if he steps up, or fades out. You see if he values your energy, or only the benefits of your availability. You see if he sees you, or just the version of you that makes his life easier. This is where your standards sharpen, where your energy gets protected, where your peace becomes non-negotiable. And when that happens, when silence becomes your test, not your fear, you step into a completely different version of yourself. One who doesn't just attract attention, but commands respect. And the irony is, the moment you stop giving everything away, the moment you become still, selective and silent, that's when they want you most. Because silence doesn't just test them, it teaches you. It teaches you to trust what fades when you stop talking, to trust what rises when you go still, to trust that real connection never requires you to exhaust yourself just to keep it alive. And as we close this video, I want you to remember this. Your silence isn't empty, it's full of answers, full of clarity, full of power. The right one will never be afraid of your silence. He'll respect it, he'll rise to meet it, and he'll recognize what it really means. You are not afraid to walk away. If you've made it this far, it means something inside you is shifting. You're no longer just looking for quick dating tips. You're starting to understand the deeper truth. Your silence is a form of self-respect. It's not about punishing anyone. It's not about games. It's about finally realizing that your energy, your words, your time, they're valuable, and not everyone deserves access to them. You've learned how silence creates mystery, how detachment draws people in, how the pause builds emotional tension, how silence after conflict can shift the entire dynamic, how absence makes you unforgettable, and finally, how silence becomes the ultimate test that reveals everything without you lifting a finger. All of this isn't about becoming colder, it's about becoming clearer, clear about who you are, clear about what you need, clear about what you will and will not tolerate. Silence isn't the absence of love, it's the presence of boundaries. And when you stop filling every gap, when you stop over-explaining yourself, when you stop rushing to fix things that aren't yours to fix, that's when your true power begins to rise. From this point forward, ask yourself, what would happen if I paused instead of panicked? What if I stayed still instead of chasing clarity? What if I allowed the space to show me who he really is, without trying to control what he thinks of me? You don't need to do more. You need to be more still, more grounded, more calm, more rooted in the truth that if someone needs constant access to your energy to stay interested, they were never truly interested in you to begin with. Now here's your next step. Take one of these rules, just one, and apply it this week. Whether it's pulling back after conflict, holding the pause in a conversation, or giving yourself the space to be missed, practice it. Not because you want to make him chase, but because you want to remember what it feels like to move with dignity. When you embody these silence rules consistently, you stop chasing connection, and you start attracting alignment, the kind that doesn't require performance, the kind that feels calm, secure, true, and that's what you deserve. So if this video hit home, if it gave you a perspective shift, don't just click away, let it integrate. Rewatch, reflect, practice. And if you want more content like this, deeper, real, empowering, make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications, and drop a comment below telling me which rule hit you the hardest. Because this is just the beginning, the real glow up. It's silent. It happens when no one's watching. And suddenly everyone feels the shift. I'll see you in the next video. And remember, you don't have to be louder to be heard. You just have to know your worth and say less.